You will disperse and return to work, or by the Emperor, you will be hung and fed to your replacements, bellowed Captain Solomon. Overseer Sterling slammed the butt of his shock pole into the ground. Work? The machines lie broken and asleep. Poison air and radiation are spreading, choking out all of us who even survived the quake. We will not, and we cannot stay here. A small roar of approval emitted from the gathering mob. Then, by Helmar's decree, you are to be removed immediately, Captain Solomon cued in his mic. In the shadows, Badland enforcers broke off, clearly in search of something. What are you going to do? Detain all of us? Taunted Sterling, as his mob of goons pressed slightly forward. No, nothing so complicated. I'm going to suffocate you, Solomon replied calmly. Panic and realization crossed Sterling's eyes. They're going for the habitation controls. They mean to take the air from our lungs. To me, men, bellowed Sterling. If we are to fall, we are to fall weapons in hand. Break up and hunt these devils down. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 3, Depths of Rothgol. Game 3 is a heated confrontation between two gangs who have more or less survived the Hivequake and are now dealing with the complete chaos of the death, destruction, and failing systems. Pictured is the current scoreboard as we go into Episode 3. The Alcalde Brotherhood took first win in our opening match in an absolute slugfest with the Augury Brethren. In Game 2, the Ashstalkers drove off the Gemini Collective from their territory, leaving a tracker on one of their haulers. LaborSec 175 is an Outcast gang, led by a Work Factoria gang. Their leader is Overseer Sterling. He comes armed with a combi auto pistol, plasma pistol. He has commanding presence and the Overseer skill, and he comes with mesh armor. Work Party boss Langston comes armed with a las pistol, a shock whip. He has the skill Iron Will, and he also wears mesh armor. The three Factoria workers are Franz, Rook, and Kit. They are armed with auto guns. Pigface and Parker are Outcast Hive scum armed with reclaimed auto pistols and chainswords. Fisk is a Hive scum armed with a sawed-off shotgun. Percival and Hartwell are recruited champions. They're veterans of a foreign campaign with the Imperial Guard, 10 years plus. Percival is armed with a combat shotgun with salvo, shredder, and he also has a sword. Hartwell is armed with a lasgun, a hotshot power pack. He has the skill trick shot. Percival has the skill true grit. Lastly is the Factoria Workers Ambot 175. He comes with tunneling claws, has the skill infiltrate, and wears carapace armor. The Bistai lawmen are led by Captain Solomon. He carries a concussion carbine and a shock baton. His skill is Got Your 6. Sergeant Edison is armed with an SLHG assault ram. He has frag and gas grenades. His skill is threat response. Sergeant Walker is armed with a heavy concussion ram. His skill is fast shot. Xander is a patrolman armed with an enforcer shotgun with salvo and shredder ammo. Romeo is a patrolman with an enforcer bolt gun. Beckett is a patrolman armed with a flamer. And lastly, Stein is a patrolman armed with an autogun. For tactics cards, we're drawing one each. Bistai lawmen get you, and LaborSec get having a bad day. The objective is burn them out, the deployment is free-for-all as pictured, and the peril is gas leak. Objectives. Starting with the attacker, the player takes turns placing 3 objectives in their opponent's deployment zone. Controlling one of the objectives within your opponent's deployment zone is worth 1 victory point. Once an objective has been scored, remove it from the battlefield. Winning the battle. A player wins the battle while being the first to reach 3 victory points, or if they are the only one with fighters still on the battlefield at the beginning of a round. And for our narrative battle report, these objectives will be the ventilation controls. And the very appropriate gas leak Hive War peril. It changes fighters being set on fire from a 4+ to a roll of a 3+, and when a fighter is taken out of action with a weapon with the blaze trait, you place a 3-inch blast marker on them before moving them from the battlefield, and all fighters underneath that must check to see if they are set on fire as well. A very chaotic deployment is complete, with the gangs basically on top of each other throughout the map. For the sake of my sanity and for everyone's clarity, the Labor Sec 175 forces are going to be attacking these traditional control panel looking devices, while Bistyle Lawmen are going to be attacking, trying to control these bronze statues. So there's 3 control panels and there's 3 bronze statues. Before rolling for priority, the tactics card Having a Bad Day is played on Captain Solomon. Choose an enemy leader champion. For the duration of this battle, any cool chests made by enemy models within 3 inches of the chosen fighter are made with a -2 modifier. Roll for priority goes to Labor Sec 175, and with that, Overseer Sterling group activates with Kit. Sterling activates and takes a leadership test to use the Overseer's skill on Kit, and uses an 8+ to pass and passes on a 9. Kit then moves up and over the wall using the ladders. The second movement is to try to get within short range of that with that autogun. Kit now activates again as her part of the group activation, targets Beckett, normally hits on a 5+, +1 for aiming. The shot is just out of short range, so it's a 4+ to hit. Hits twice on a 4, strength 3 versus toughness 3, 4+ to wound, both of them wound. 2 saves needing a 6, both fail. 2 injury dice come out. Beckett goes down with a serious injury and takes a flesh wound. Nearby Xander watches Beckett go down and loses his nerve. He flees 5 inches into hiding. So it looks like the Bistyle Lawmen are immediately on the back foot and outnumbered heavily. The Bistyle Lawmen activate Captain Solomon himself. He takes aim at Parker and he fires his concussion carbine. It's a 4+ to hit with a +1 for aiming, needing a 3+ now. Hit lands, rolls for knockback is good, sending Parker into the edge of the map, which is treated as a wall for knockback's sake. Strength 3 versus toughness 3, roll the wound needs a 4+, and is successful to roll of a 5. 2 injury dice come out, Parker goes down seriously injured with a flesh wound and concussed. So the Bistyle Lawmen hit back quickly, but let's see if it's enough or if it's just a drop in the bucket. Labor Sec 175 activates Hartwell. He has a perfect angle on Stein, and he has caught him in the wide open. Hartwell uses his first action to aim, normally hitting on a 4+, with a +1 for aiming and a +1 for the lasgun short range. Hartwell now needs a 2+ to hit. He easily hits on a 6, strength 4 versus toughness 3, needing a 3+ to wound. The shot wounds. -1 AP cuts to the armored undersuit, an injury dice is rolled, Stein goes down seriously injured. Romeo watches Stein fall, and he passes his cool check with a roll of an 8. Bistyle Lawmen activate Sergeant Walker. He spies out a good angle on Franz across the board. He uses his first action to move. With his second action, he fires his heavy concussion ram. The shot needs a 4+ to hit, and it hits with a roll of a 6. The blast marker hits both Franz and Overseer Sterling. Franz is knocked back into a wall on a roll of a 4. Sterling is also knocked back into the adjacent wall on a roll of a 6. Strength 4 versus toughness 3, needing 3+ to wound. Franz is not wounded on the roll of 1. Sterling is wounded on the roll of a 5. AP -1 reduces armor save to a 6, which he fails on the roll of a 2. Sterling takes a wound, and an injury dice is rolled, resulting in an out of action. Sterling rolls up lasting injury of humiliated. Franz passes his nerve test with a roll of a 9. We've had a pretty incredible series of dice roll back and forth so far. Let's see how long this keeps up for. Labor Sec 175 activates Fisk. His first action is to move right up into Xander's face. With his second action, he fires a sawn-off shotgun with scatter shot. Normally hitting on a 4+, with a +2 for short range, the shot just barely connects with a roll of a 2. Scatter shot generates 6 hits. Strength 3 versus toughness 3, needing 4+ to wound. There are 2 wounds. Xander needs 6s for an armor save, and he passes one of the 2 checks. An injury dice comes out, and Xander takes a flesh wound and goes down pinned. Bistyle Lawmen activate Sergeant Edison. He spies out Percival. With his first action, he moves into a firing position. He loads his SLHG launcher with a frag grenade and fires. He needs a 4+ to hit, and he hits on a 4. Percival is knocked back into a control panel with a roll of a 6. It's strength 3 versus toughness 3. The explosion wounds on a roll of a 6. Percival takes 1 wound, an injury dice comes out, resulting in him taking a flesh wound and going down pinned. The wildly effective dice roll continue. Bloodied but not broken, Labor Sec 175 activates Damon. He uses both actions to move in position to take over an atmospheric control station at the end of the following turn. Low on first turn activations, Bistyle Lawmen activate the seriously injured Stein. He crawls into position, looking for an assist in the end phase. LaborSec 175 proceeds to group activate Work Party Boss Langston and Rook. They use both of their activations to move closer to the second atmospheric control panel. Bistyle Lawman's final activation of turn 1 is Romeo with his Enforcer Bolt Gun. He moves into position to assist in the end phase with his first action. With his second action, he targets Work Party Boss Langston, normally hitting on a 4+, with a -2 for cover, needing a 6+ to hit. The shot just misses with a roll of 5. And with that, perhaps the hot streak of dice roll have finally ended. LaborSec 175 controls the remaining activations on turn 1. Pigface activates, he moves, and then he fires at Sergeant Walker with his auto pistol. Needing a 4+ to hit, he misses on the roll of a 2. An ammo check is required, and the ammo check is passed on a roll of a 5. The seriously injured Parker activates and crawls towards Ambot 175, looking to get an assist in the recovery phase. Franz pulls himself to his feet and advances toward the bulk of the Bistyle Lawman forces. Percival activates, he grits his teeth and stands up. He moves into a position out of line of sight of that SLHG assault ram. The final activation of turn 1 belongs to Ambot 175. The machine dutifully shuffles over towards Parker to assist in the recovery phase. Turn 1 end phase, bottle checks. LaborSec 175 cannot bottle, and unfortunately for the Lawman, they do bottle with a roll of a 6. So now we go to fleeing the battlefield. Things are just getting worse. Captain Solomon fails his cool check and flees from the battlefield. Romeo passes his cool check on an 8. Stein passes with a 7. Sergeant Walker passes with an 8. Sergeant Edison passes with a 10. Beckett passes on 11. And finally, Xander passes on a 7. In the recovery phase for the Lawman, Beckett receives another flesh wound and stays down seriously injured. Stein, receiving assist, recovers from being seriously injured and rolls over to pinned. On the side of LaborSec, Parker, receiving assistance, recovers from his serious injury, rolling over pinned as well. Rally test. For the Bistyle Lawman, Xander fails to rally and remains broken. Turn summary. So, what a brutal first turn, right? The combination of deployment zones and the terrain selection and style, it has definitely resulted in a bit of a brawl. The Bistyle Lawmen, they feel a little overwhelmed, particularly with the flight of Captain Solomon. Prudence might suggest that the Lawmen should flee, having bottled and losing their leader, but we're going to risk a turn 2 and maybe the title turn. Turn 2 roll for priority goes to the Bistyle Lawmen. Sergeant Walker seizes the initiative and activates. He pivots in place and targets Pigface with his heavy concussion ram. Normally hitting on a 4+, with a +1 for close range, he misses on a roll of a 1. Amazingly, the scattered ice roll is snake eyes, so the shot still clips the base of the model, resulting in a hit. There is no knockback on the roll of a 1, strength 4 versus toughness 3, needing 3+ to wound, the concussive blast wounds on a 5. Pigface has no armor save, an injury dice is rolled, and Pigface goes down pinned and takes a flesh wound. With his skill fast shot, Sergeant Walker bombards the now pinned and wounded Pigface with a follow-up shot. Again hitting on a 3+, the shot hits on a 4. Pigface is knocked back into the adjacent wall on a roll of a 6. Strength 4 versus toughness 2, needing 2+ to wound, the blast wounds on a roll of a 5. 2 injury dice are rolled and Pigface goes out of action. Sergeant Walker is proving himself to be a deadly adversary. Pigface lays on the floor, bloodied and smashed apart. Summoning all the strength left in his body, he screams, "Witness me!" holding a frag grenade up with his one functioning arm. He pops the pin, attempts to toss the grenade at Sergeant Walker in retaliation. Instead, the grenade slips from his broken fingers and lands by his side. Everyone did indeed witness as Pigface disappeared amongst the ensuing explosion in a fine red mist. Pigface rolls on the lasting injury table, and with that roll, we have our first memorable death of the campaign. Franz activates and turns his attention to Sergeant Walker, this extremely destructive champion. With his first activation, he advances into a better firing position. With his second action, he fires his autogun. Needing a 5+ hit, the shot astoundingly hits twice with a roll of a 6. It's strength 3 versus toughness 3, needing 4+ to wound, one-shot wounds on a roll of a 5. Sergeant Walker has a 6+ armor save, which he fails on a 4, and with that, Sergeant Walker takes a wound and goes down pinned. The Factoria workers are really punching up in this game. Bistai Lawman activate Romeo. Concerned with the proximity of Ambot 175, he uses his first action to move to a better firing position. He then unleashes his bolt gun on Ambot 175. Normally hitting on 4+, it's +1 for close range, -1 for cover, so it's back to a 4. Romeo hits 3 times with a roll of a 4 to hit. Strength 4 versus toughness 5, needing 5+ to wound. 1 wounds on a 6. AP -1 versus Carapace Armor. Ambot 175 needs a 5+ to pass its armor save, and it passes that on a 5, and simply goes down pinned. Labor Sec 175 activate Fisk. He continues to abuse the broken and pinned body of Xander. With his first action, he fires his sawn-off shotgun with Scattershot. Normally hitting on a 4+, with a 2+ for close range, needing a 2+ to hit. He easily connects on a 6. Scattershot generates 5 hits. Strength 3 versus reduced toughness of 2, needing 3+ to wound. There are 4 wounds. Xander takes 4 saves, needing 6+. All saves are failed, resulting in 4 injury dice, and Xander goes out of action hard. The lasting injury result is out cold. With his second action, he does an about face and moves up to support Percival, the champion. Low on activations and attempting to stall for time, Xander activates and crawls into a corner, wishing he could just disappear. Parker activates. He pulls himself to his feet. He uses his second action to advance on Romeo, looking for vengeance for his fallen comrade Pigface. Stein gets to his feet and moves towards an environmental control panel. Labersec activates Damon. He loads his shotgun with Scattershot and fires at Beckett. Normally hitting on a 4+ with a +2 for close range, he needs a 2+. Damon hits on a 5. Scattershot generates 2 hits. It's Strength 2 versus Toughness 1, both wound. Beckett fails both armor saves. 2 injury dice are rolled and he goes out of action. Lasting injury results in a spinal injury, reducing his strength by 1 and sending him into recovery. Damon passes on his second activation. He's going to capture and control a panel in the end phase. Sergeant Edison is the final Bistai Lawman activation of the turn. He uses both actions to move into a stronger firing position. The remaining activations belong to Labersec. Ambot 175 rights itself and advances on Romeo relentlessly. Kit uses both of her actions to move fearlessly down the center of the table. Work Party Boss Langston advances up behind Ambot 175, further pressuring Romeo. Rook follows and advances with his boss Langston. Lastly, Percival activates. He moves up towards Sergeant Edison and takes cover. He loads his combat shotgun with salvo ammunition and fires. He needs a 4+ to hit, and the shot misses on a 2. Turn 2 end phase. Bottle checks. Labersec still can't bottle. Fleeing the battlefield. Sergeant Edison passes his cool check with 7. Sergeant Walker fails with a 5 and flees. Romeo passes with a 10. Stein fails with a 6 and flees. For recovery phase, there's no one seriously injured. For rally tests, there's none to be made. So turn summary. With the majority of the Bistai Lawman forces off the table, the Lawmen are going to voluntarily flee the battlefield. I think tactically there were a couple of deployment mistakes for the Bistai Lawmen, with both sergeants on their own unable to assist the rest of the gang with their bottle checks. For Labersec, I'm actually surprised with how strong this game seemed to play, at least with the scenario and the deployment that we had. With a huge body count and Iron Will skill in the mix, it seems like they'll be near impossible to bottle out, and shotguns at close range go a long way to offsetting the firepower and skill issues that they seem to have, at least on these tighter maps. MVPs of the match go to Fisk and Damon. With their shotguns, they were able to dominate their fights. They technically even scored a point for controlling objective at the end of turn 2. For rewards, Labersec 175 earns 2 reputation. They also earn 80 credits, which they put directly into their stash to address future critical injuries. The Bistai Lawmen receive 40 credits, which they also stash for an emergency. Overseer Sterling peered from the rubble he was hiding under. The last of the lawmen seemed to be in a hasty retreat. Sterling pulled himself up to his feet, dusted himself down of debris. By the look in the eyes of some of the men, they had noticed him cowering during the most intense moments of the fight. Good work, comrades. Now we will lock down the entire sector. I want barricades erected and choke points reinforced. We are no longer under the lash of the Guilders. We will make ourselves a fortress, and we will subjugate any who remain in our territory. I want Archaeotech hunting parties formed. Well, don't just stand about. Get to it, barked Langston. Sterling had heard something come through the Vox right before the devastating hivequake had begun. Something of great value, maybe possibly even horror. Something to make a man a king. No, perhaps a god. No reason to inform the men. There's time for that later. This is my destiny, Sterling thought. Only time will tell if that destiny is riches or ruin. And with that, episode 3 of Depths of Rothgol concludes. Thank you guys very much for watching this far. Thank you for putting up with all the bad editing and little technical errors I'm making here and there. Hopefully I'm getting a little better each time. Please feel free to like and subscribe. And just hang tight. I'll be working on these more. So see you guys next time.